Hey everyone, today we're going to look at ways that we can use shapes inside of Storyline to actually make our pages look a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, welcome back. If you haven't checked out my website already, go ahead and check out my website at learningdojo.ninja. You can check out my blog where you can see other posts about augmented reality, Storyline, XAPI as well. You can also check out my templates where you can see games and different types of interactions inside of Storyline. You can also download XAPI and video templates as well. And then you can also check out my courses on Storyline 360. I have full courses on Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Rise, SCORM, and more. But today we're going to be talking about how to use shapes inside of Storyline to help our pages pop out a little bit more and make them seem a little bit more professional than they are by default. So a lot of the times I'll see pages like this where we just have a white background. The image doesn't even fill the entire screen or anything like that. And that's fine, but it's just really kind of plain as well. So you can use shapes to style this a little bit more, and even some of the different settings inside of Storyline to add some color and some other design as well. I'm going to add some more text here. And if you don't know this already, this tip is going to save you a whole lot of time. If you don't know what text you're going to have inside of Storyline yet, and you just want to create some basic layouts, you can actually use lorem ipsum text. If you hit equals and then lorem, type in lorem, open close parentheses, and then hit enter, it's going to fill out a bunch of text for you. So that will just save you a whole lot of time. However, and this is going to change your life, I guarantee this, is if you don't want to use just normal lorem ipsum text, you can actually search for something like Bacon Ipsum. So baconipsum.com, and you can get Bacon Ipsum text. So if you're a vegetarian, don't worry, there's a Veggie Ipsum. If you love Star Wars, there's a Star Wars Ipsum. I believe there's a Marvel Ipsum too. So there's a whole lot of different Ipsums that you can use. So you can copy that and you can come into Storyline and do that as well. I told you that would change your life. I use that all the time. Anyway, so coming back into Storyline, there's a couple things that I could do to make this look a little bit better. If I wanted to, I could just stretch out my picture to take up the full screen here. And I think that looks a little bit better. And then we could just have our background, even center that a little bit and come into our Format tab. Well, actually, let's go into the Design tab and let's go to Background Styles, and then we can click on Format Background. Now, if we go to Format Background, we can either do a Gradients fill or we could do a solid fill, and we could just go ahead and change the background color, which could be like a light blue or something like that. I mean, you probably don't want to get too crazy here. And if it's a dark color, make sure that you change your text color to white so it pops out a little bit more there as well. So that's one thing you can do, is maybe just have your image fill the entire screen. Let's go ahead and add a new slide here. And I'm going to go basic layout and then click on blank slide. And I'm going to insert an image from the Content Library 360 here. And I'm going to have this image fill the entire screen. So let's have this, it doesn't quite fit, but if I stretch this out a little bit so the width at least fits here, and then I bring that down, and you can use the arrange and align and go to the top here, bring that down. I like to make sure that my picture is not overlapping, because sometimes I may place something on the bottom of the picture, but it may be off the stage. And so what I do is I come into crop here and I take whatever's overlapping, move it above the stage, and then just, you'll see that it snaps right to the bottom of the stage there. And that way I get the image to fill the entire screen here. And so you can see this is looking great. However, I want to have some like overlay and have some text right here. So maybe we can do a shape and have a shape, add a little bit more style to it. So let's come in here and have, let's just have a simple rectangle for now. And let's not fill the entire screen, but maybe let's fill half the screen here. And then come up to Format, and then just, I like to get rid of the outline. I don't like the outline itself because it just adds one extra layer to the shape. So if you ever watched any of my videos or went through any of my training, you know that one of the first things that I do is get rid of the outline. So I'm going to get rid of the outline there, and I'm going to change this to a black color. And now we can expand and go into more settings of the shape by clicking on this little expand shape or expand. It looks like an expand button to me. And it goes into the settings here, which under the fill settings, I can then adjust the transparency so it's has a little bit more of a fill background as well. And now, instead of inserting a text box, I see a lot of instructional designers go in and feel like they have to insert a text box inside of here. You don't. You can actually type in text right into the shape. So just by selecting the shape, you can type in text right there. So let's go ahead and fill that up a little bit. Let's have equals lorem open close parentheses, hit enter, and there we go. Now, there is something when you're working with web design called margin and padding. So margin is the space between two different objects. Padding is the space inside of the object itself. So if you wanted this to have a little bit more padding, it already has some default padding here, but if you wanted to have a little bit more space on the left and right inside of the object, we need to adjust the padding there. So I'm going to click on Format with that shape selected. I'm going to expand this out and I'm going to go down to text box. Now, this is where I think Storyline has it wrong, is because they use the word margin. Margin is the space outside of the shape and between the next shape, and padding is the space inside of the shape. So that's, again, a little thing that's wrong. I mean, it's not going to make too much of a difference, but I'm going to go ahead and just say, hey, let's up this a little bit to 2020 there. And you can see it's added a little bit more space there. All right, so coming back into the Home tab, let's go ahead and change the font size. I don't really like the font size that large. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Now, keep in mind with text readers or accessibility and stuff like that, you don't want to go too small with the text. The text readers will read the text regardless, but you don't want to go too small for anyone that has visual impairments or anything like that. So, all right, I'm going to make sure that this is kind of more centered in the screen there. And you can see that's looking good. We've used the shape to add a little bit more style and not just have it on, a plain background with an image. All right, let's insert another page here. And so let's add another image and see what else we can do with the shape here. So I'm going to go into the content library and I searched for a bunch of cities here, but I'm going to go ahead and hit insert. And so let's do the same thing, stretch this out, make sure that it fills the entire screen here. And then I'm going to make sure that it's aligned to the top. And then we're going to take the crop and we're going to move it up here. Now, don't feel like you have to just use the rectangle if you wanted to add some style like this. If you go into the Insert tab, you can go into Shape and you can use some of these other shapes as well. The one that I like to use a lot is this one right here that kind of has a slash there. So first thing I do is I get rid of the outline. So I'm going to go into the outline and just get rid of the outline here. And this little yellow square allows me to adjust this slash right here. Now I don't want this. I mean, I could have that. Maybe that looks okay to have that kind of line come in like that. Or maybe I want to have the line without adjusting the space or like the slants there. Maybe I want to have the second line be off the stage here. Because when I preview this, the learner is not going to see anything outside of that white stage area. They're going to see just what's in that white stage area. So you can see right here, that's left-hand side is pretty much off the stage. So we can use it like that. Now I'm going to do, for this one, just keep it at fill color black, and I can just adjust the color there, click on expand, and adjust the transparency right there as well. Now you could still have text inside of here. So let me type in equals lorem open close parentheses, hit enter, but we have a problem. Our text is kind of off our shape here. This is where those margins or padding comes into play. So I'm going to go into format, and then I'm going to come down to text box, and then I'm going to just drastically move this up more. So I'm going to say 40 and 40. Now I may have to play around with this, and in fact, I may want more margin or padding on the left-hand side to bring it on the stage than I do on the right-hand side. So we're not quite there yet. I hit enter, and that's why it closed it. But let's get rid of some of the padding on the right-hand side. And so let's really drastically move that up In fact, let's do even more, 160. There we go. And then on the right, let's do 40. And so let's make sure everything is there. So let's even do more. Let's do 60 there. Okay, not quite, but we can actually play with this a little bit. Let's make sure it's left justified. And then let's also make sure that the font size is 16. So there, it's actually made it a whole lot better, but let's go back into our Format tab, click on this expand icon, go back into the text box, and let's have the right be something like 80, and then hit close. Which that didn't actually make a whole lot of change there. Man, well, I need to make this even more drastic. There we go. So now if I publish this, this is going to have that text right there. So to me, that looks great and adds a little bit more style with that kind of that edge there. And then even if you animate this, this looks great too. If I come in and I animate and I have this fade in and I have it fade in from the left, watch as I preview this now, you can see the whole city and then have that fade in. So I think that looks great there. All right, so a couple other things that I can do. Let's go ahead and insert let's insert another page actually. So new page, basic layout, blank page here. And so let's add one more picture, but we're not gonna have a full picture here. Let's just have kind of, let's go back into the content library and let's have a landscape picture like that, or sorry, a portrait picture. And maybe we have this kind of adjusted right there. An image is essentially a shape. So some of the styling that you can apply to on the shapes, you can actually apply on the image as well. So coming into the image, I can add a border. And this is, I know I said I didn't like borders, but in this case I do. And so I can go into my text box, go into the line color, and it's right now set at white. The line style, the width, let's go ahead and adjust it to 5. But then let's add, you can't really see it yet, but let's add a drop shadow. And that drop shadow is going to make it so it pops out a little bit more. I'm going to adjust the transparency to 80 there. And I'm going to take the blur down to 3 here. Now, see over on the left-hand side, I can't, maybe that's not the right one. Maybe I want to have the image or the shadow. Maybe I want to have the shadow kind of even there. And I'm going to adjust this back here. And then let's take the blur down to like 4 or something like that. So look, this looks more like a printed photograph and it has a little bit more pop over it. So you can add a little bit more style there as well. Now I can even add, let's add another shape here and let's use this as a title. So I'm going to come in and to my shape, I'm going to have kind of a rounded corner here. Let me find one that's more rounded. Okay, let's try this one right here. And I'm going to take this yellow circle and I'm going to make this a lot more rounded there. Now I'm going to stretch this out a little bit more, or just make sure that it's kind of off the stage a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that the height is a little bit smaller there. All right. Title of page. Let's give it a title of page. We're going to name, this is going to be like the title section here. And let's center this. First of all, get rid of the outline. I forgot to get rid of the outline. So let's get rid of the outline here. And let's actually align the text itself. Coming back into the home page, let's make sure that the text is aligned to the left. But I kind of want to have it here so we could actually indent this a little bit if we wanted to. And we can actually do this in the paragraph settings by clicking on indent, and then we'll indent our title page. And maybe if this was a little bit longer, it would look better. But if I clicked on preview this page now, you can see that now this kind of pops out. And I may want to animate it to animate in from the right, and that may look a little bit better. So you can use shapes for different style elements to make your page pop out a little bit more. You can use different shape settings on your images as well. So there is a lot that you can do to make your pages actually pop out a whole lot more. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you want to learn more, check out my website, learningdojo.ninja. You can check out my blog with other tips and tricks. You can also come into my template section and download templates on Storyline. You can also go through different courses and you can learn a little bit more about Storyline, Captivate, XAPI, and other things like that. One more word of caution, if you can build it inside of Storyline, build it inside of Storyline instead of bringing it in as an image. If you can't get the same exact style, then maybe build it inside of Illustrator or Photoshop or something and then bring it in. It's just images are going to take up a lot more space than shapes. So I always recommend to my students to try to recreate the style using shapes first. And if you can't do that, then bring in images, and just to save you a whole lot more file size as well. So hopefully that was helpful for you. I hope to see you in the next video, and thanks everyone.